Okay, guys, we're going to continue with multiplying polynomials. We'll add some that are a little bit more complex this time. We are going to still focus on the fact that when you multiply that there are two methods that we can use. This first one we talked about together would be focused on distributing your values. So it's really a distributive method. We distribute the number in front of the parentheses to all the terms inside the parentheses. And then once they are distributed, we simplify them. The second method that we have, I'm going to refer to as the box method. And with the box method, we're going to set up the box. We are going to multiply all our matching terms, and then we're going to simplify. Now, I'll be honest, based on what you guys answered, I think almost everybody is using the box method except for a couple. So I think we're going to focus from here on out on using the box method. If you are somebody that prefers the distributive, that's completely fine. Message me and I will send something to you just based on that. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the ones that we have here. So first of all, the first one we have is 10a in the front, and inside there's 1a minus 10b. Now, before we start, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 1 there. And then I'm going to go through and set up the box method. So I have 10a is the only thing in front, so that's going to go in front of my box. I'm going to make my box here. And then I'm going to take this piece right here and put it across here. So 1a, and then I'm going to make minus 10b into negative 2b, and I'm going to separate it into two columns. Now I'm going to go through and start to multiply. So if I were to do 10a times 1a, it would be 10a squared, and 10a times negative 10b is negative 100 AB. Now remember, if you have more than one letter, you can't really do much more than put them together and make sure when you're doing it, it's in alphabetical order. So if A comes alphabetically before B, it should be written like this. Now, when I look at what's inside the box, there's nothing that has like terms. So I'm just going to write it as 10a squared minus 100ab. Now, in some ways, that should look like the ones we did earlier in the week. The only difference is this had a 1 that had to be added in front of the A. Okay, now if we take a look at the next one, I have 9 in the front, then x squared plus xy minus 8y squared. First thing I'm going to do is add 1s there because there's no number in front, and I assume that's there. And then I'm going to set up my box. So this 9 is going to go in front of the box. And then I'm going to take all 3 of these and put them across the top, giving each term its own column. So 1x squared gets its own column. Positive 1xy gets its own column. Negative 8y squared gets its own column. Okay, now I'm going to start to multiply them together. So 9 times 1x squared is 9x squared. 9 times positive 1xy is going to be positive 9xy. And positive 9 times negative 8y squared is negative 2y squared. Now, none of these have exactly the same variables. So the most we can do is put them down. Remember, our standard form wants us to put the highest exponent first. So we have 2 things to consider. Obviously, a squared is the highest exponent that you have. But if you have more than one letter, x's should go first and then y's. So x squared, and then this has just an x. And this does have a y, which is okay, but then we go to the y and switch over. Okay, let's try one more here. This is going to be my value outside my box. Make my long box here. And each term in here gets its own column up here. So 4r squared gets its own column. Minus 5r gets its own column. And plus 7 gets its own column. Now I'm going to start taking this and multiplying it by each piece. So 8r squared times 4r squared is 32r to the fourth. Now remember with the exponents, if I have 2 and 2, when you multiply them together, you have to add the exponents. So that becomes 4. Okay, now 8r squared times negative 5r is negative 4r to the third. Now it's 3 because there's 2 here and we assume this is a 1. So it's 3 altogether. Now 8r squared times positive 7 is positive 56r squared. Okay, now because all of the r's have different exponents, they are technically different variables. So your final answer will look like this. Okay, any questions, let me know. Good luck.